Hi there, Victor Pross speaking to you, anarchist artist. Okay, today I'd like to share some thoughts I've been having in regards to our relationship with the government. And when I say our, I'm talking about the citizens. And that could be the citizens of any country, to whatever government we're talking about. I'm just talking about the relationship between these two sets of people. Of course, it's an arbitrary divide. We're just all human beings, but this is the fantasy paradigm that has been that we're born into. You have the ruling elite, who have all these special, magical fairy dust. Oppositional moral qualities that the average citizen doesn't have. The government has exclusive monopoly on the initiation of force that's been granted to them by the divine rights of the philosopher kings in Plato's cave, or God. I mean, whatever the bullshit irrationality that's been arbitrarily constructed to grant these sets of human beings from all other human beings it's quite interesting. It takes a lot of fantasy to prop this blood-drenched institution up, where people are actually regarding it as necessary. It's funny how the mythology that cloaks it is the very thing that sustains it. But there's another thing too. There's other qualities of what sustains this power. And as I was mentioning, I was thinking about the relationship between the citizenry of any given country and any government. And it's interesting to observe that's one of fear. It's the subtext. It's like the subtle narrative that runs between the two. You have obviously the citizen has a great deal to fear from his government. I mean, the fear that runs that way is quite clear. I mean, you have ever escalating erosions into liberties and freedoms as it is right now, and coming from like the beacon of freedom, the American experiment coming from that government now. I mean, it's just that can be very scary. I mean, we think of dictatorships and theocracies and whatnot in other countries, and we go, well, that's a dictatorship. That's obviously that's those very bad governments, and woo, yeah, so glad that I live here in North America. But now we're at a crossroads where the powers that be are just overreaching their boundaries, and boundaries set by the Constitution, right? So people are ever becoming more and more fearful of their governments, and they don't know what type of predation is going to come upon them next. Whether that be financially, or whether that be being arrested for thought crimes, or or whatnot, peacefully protesting, whatever. Right? It's a bloody institution that comes down like a hammer. That as Nietzsche said, bites with razor sharp teeth. So, but the fear, I submit, this fear that's quite evident in the air comes both ways. Okay? It's not just fearing the government. It's the government also fears the people. Okay, I'll explain what I mean by that. Naturally, any small handful of people that rule the government, the upper echelons, the ruling elite, are vastly outnumbered by the general population. I mean, granted, they have a great deal of power. Most of that power comes intellectually, because we support this institution every time that we vote, or we use language like whatever our Stockholm battered wife syndrome justifications for this power. It's a necessary evil. We just got to vote to get the right person and things like that. I mean, we're always perpetuating it, but just in the bareback physical facts, of course, is that the government has a great deal of power in terms of ammunition. Okay, and the cops and their tasers and their batons and club sticks and the weaponry, and then you have the industrial military complex with their missiles and things like that. There's a great deal of power there, just in the raw physical means of power, but there's also, they have a great deal of intellectual power. Now, it's the intellectual power that is what really concerns any ruling elite, any government. Is that's why they had to sink their propaganda fangs right into the mental reins of human beings in order to control them, and that's why they took over schooling, education. You know, they wanted to get their hooks in right from the get-go, and they're following the example of the Prussian model of schooling in order to churn out docile, obedient, patriotic citizens. So the government fears, what the government really fears from the people is naturally is an uprising. And what would be the cause of that uprising? What would be the cause of that uprising? Well, I submit that would be people waking up. Okay, that's what any government officials and the ruling elite have always feared. That's why they have a bombardment of propaganda. That's why they have a bombardment of public relations. That's the new term coined for propaganda. Before the days of when propaganda received a negative connotation. It was just out in the open that in Nazi Germany, for example, you had a minister of propaganda, but now you just have public relations. So it's serving the same purpose. It's to woo people with words, to appease them, to make patriotic sentiments and fiery rhetorical speeches, all riled up. All of this is carefully calculated. I mean, whenever any president of the United States is reading a teleprompter, the language is shaped very, very carefully. You know, it's written for him, it has a copywriter, and it's drafted very conscientiously. It's whoever writes these speeches is aware of psychology, of mass psychology, Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and Freudian language as well. I mean, these people understand psychology, and they're tapping into the psyche of people. Obviously, I mean, this is like a mass manipulation, and that's the type of powers that really props up government officials. Now, and for people to wake up and to catch on that they're being fucked over, not just physically, you know, taxes, the expropriation of their wealth and their life, but fucked over in the sense of mentally being fucked over, mentally being played with. Have you ever met somebody? It could be a friend of yours. It could be a girl who's been being manipulated by her family, being manipulated by her husband. You know, the guilt, pushing all the buttons, pushing the guilt buttons, pushing the and you have the love bombardment, all of it calculated to manipulate and keep this person in check. Well, I mean, this is exactly the way that governments operate. This is the exact same way that governments operate. But when you just step back and pull the curtain back to look at the man behind the curtain, you realize that it's just all one massive fraud. These people, what they're doing is just simply they're maximizing their resources at your expense, and it's just a lust for power. It's a power grab. These people are ill. They're mentally ill. They're spiritually sick, and that's the type of people that are attracted to this ring, this racket called the state. I mean, yeah, you do get your ideological, fuzzy thinking people who want to make a change, and they're coming from a good place and things like that. They don't turn out to be successful politicians. I mean, come on. I mean, this is one reason why Ron Paul will never mark these words, mark this video. You know, Ron Paul, and I do believe he's really coming from a sincere place. He's very intelligent. But he's got that dopey naivete about him of this old man world of believing in the Constitution, and we're going to restore. He's going to turn this ship around. You know, with his little eye tweezers, he's going to pick up the sinking ship of the Titanic and hurl it up to the surface level of the ocean. And it's sad seeing such an intelligent man, you know, delude himself with his little fairy tales and his naivety, that a man who's in his 70s and he really buys into this stuff. And, you know, but he comes from another world. He comes from He comes from the generation that was singing patriotic songs around campfires, you know, and so he comes from an entirely different generation. But I'm talking about, by and large, though, it's very sick, evil people that go into this institution. I mean, the physical facts of what's happening today bears me out. It's not some theory that I'm springing from the air. I mean, look at what they're doing. Look at what you got, Mr. Hope and Change Obama. The man's a killer. That's all there is to it. He's a killer just like his predecessor puppet was, George W. Bush. I mean, all these people are violently ill. Okay, I'm sorry. And we should not ever afford a small handful of people such immense power over other human beings, because it's not just the physical destruction that they can bring. It's not just the threat of physical force, but it's also the big, massive mind fuck that they're capable of. And I think that that's been illustrated very clearly. Thank you, Victor Pross, anarchist artist, signing out. Pop goes the culture.